lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talladega Superspeedway. We are live here for the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series. These guys just getting ready for qualifying here, single car runs. And I tell you what, we are in for a show today. I'm Liam Irving, joined by Matt Metler in the booth here for Racing Media. And we've got 94 laps at the high banks, the biggest, baddest beast that there is on the circuit. Matt, how are you feeling about today? Matt might be a little bit busy. He is definitely on parent duty tonight, so we'll jump back with him in a little bit. But we're watching Taylor Butcher Benjamin get up on the top side here for his first lap here on the qualifying attempt. Thomas Harmon's out on the racetrack as well. James Goodman, James Jacobs. So we'll go ahead and put that tower up top so you guys can see where your favorite drivers are qualifying. Looks like we've got 17 of the series best ready to do battle here at Talladega Superspeedway. As we currently watch James Jacobs come around in the number 71. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, he's going to be the first one to get a lap down here. Jumps down to the bottom. James Goodman also gets a lap down. He's going to be P2 for right now. Everybody's first lap's going to be kind of tough to tell what they're going to qualify with. That second lap's really going to be where it's at in terms of speed. These guys run in the bottom usually, trying to get every ounce of speed, run the shortest distance that they can. James Pandolf, sitting on the pole for right now. We're going to have to see. Got a lot of good cars here yet to qualify. Of course, one of the major stories of the season so far is that all of the races thus far have been won by this driver, Thomas Harmon, or car number 1, Austin Collins, who is sitting on the track here. I'm not sure if his goal is to start at the back potentially, just put down the slowest lap he can, but we'll keep an eye on that. Taylor Butcher Benjamin back to the top of the charts though with a 52.99. James Jacobs with a 53.08. Now Thomas Harmon puts down a 53.01 to put him up into third. Larry McKenzie as well. Apologies, Matt's having himself some technical difficulties at the moment, but we should have him back up in here before the green flag comes out. Go ahead and get the times up there so you guys can check out where your favorite driver is sitting in terms of speed in single car runs. With only 30 seconds left on the qualifying session though, might be tough for these guys to get up and make a lap. Some of them still on the track. Matt Sisler coming across, he might be able to finish the lap. Brandon Brorby, Sam Niederhelm, I fear they may not be able to make it. We'll see what Sisler can put down in that number 93 Orange Machine, Hugger Orange. He gets up to 8th place. He's no stranger to these plate tracks. We saw him in the Midday Racing League live on Sim Racing Media last Friday. Take the checkers at Daytona in quite a wild finish. But now qualifying is done. Taylor Butcher Benjamin is on the pole. We're going to go ahead and run through your starting grid. First place is going to be Taylor Butcher Benjamin. Then we've got Thomas Harmon, Larry McKenzie Jr., James Jacobs, Dustin Jones, James Pandolf, James Goodman, Matt Sisler, Andrew McKenzie, and Brandon Brorby rounding out your top 10. We've got Sam Niederhelm, Jacob Gladulich, Drift, the man, Austin Collins, Justin Sorrell, Matt Burgess, Larry McKenzie, and David Wright is going to round out the field. Matt is sitting on the back of that list. He put down some times in practice, got some laps down with these guys, and he'll definitely be talking about that throughout the course of this race, but that's why you see him sitting there in 18th position. Won't be participating. He'll be hanging out up in the booth once he gets his stuff back right. So we're just waiting for these guys to get gridded up here. 17 of the series best ready to do battle. And one thing to consider is that these guys don't have any fast repairs. So the big one is definitely not something you're going to want to see early. Not something you're going to want to be caught up in at any point in the race. But, you know, you get taken out in a crash early. That's really going to hurt and hamper your morale throughout the course of this race. Just waiting on a few more to get ready here. And that pace car is rolling. We are ready to roll, and look at the amount of air under some of these guys' noses, everybody's nose. Another big thing that we're gonna notice here, or maybe talk about, is that these cars have a bit of a wicker on the top. They've got a piece that extends out on the roof just a little bit. You can kind of see there in the angle that punches just a little bit bigger of a hole and helps these guys behind catch up a little bit. However, in these cars, the bumpers don't line up quite as well as some of the other cars do, say Xfinity or trucks, but bump drafting is going to be a really sketchy spot for these guys. If you can pull it off, you can pull it off, but if you can't, that's going to spell disasters. It looks like we've got Matt back up in here. Matt, if you could, just kind of give us a quick rundown of what happened last week at Texas Motor Speedway.
All right, guys, we're coming to you via mobile satellite now as the Xfinity at the house decided it was time to play games as we went live. But for right now, we're back. Last week, if your name wasn't either Thomas Harmon or Austin Collins so far throughout the series, let's go all the way back, you have had no problems cruising sailing at the front of the field when the checkered flag falls. Last week, Austin Collins dethroned Thomas Harmon from his 4-race win streak, capped off a great victory. JP had one of the best runs I have seen from him early on in this season, with a very, very strong third place finish. That brings us here today, Talladega, and I know you were talking about this car and the drafting challenges. If you can master that, boy, great advantage. But if you have an incident or at least a little bit too hard of an impact on the rear of that car in front of you, that bumper acts as a jacker and can cause mayhem in an instant, so you better use it sparingly. And that's where we kind of are right now, if I remember what you were saying before you brought me back in.
Yes, sir, and now the pace car has made that hard left turn. We're getting ready here for the start. 94 laps here at Talladega Superspeedway. Taylor Butcher Benjamin gonna lead him down through the Geico restart zone and a little bit past it. Green flag is in the air and we are racing at Talladega Superspeedway. A super even start up front as Butcher Benjamin and Thomas Harmon go dead even into the front into turn number 1. You see that Haviland number 71 machine on the outside trying a bit of a push, but now a separation getting through that top lane. A couple of car lengths separating the top two cars there. The inside looking a lot more kind of put together at this point, but two distinct lines currently. These guys virtually staying gridded up, and just as I say that, you see the outside lane push Thomas Harmon out front. Not by much, but he led going into turn number 3.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. These cars, when you get them stacked up together nice and tight, that's where you're going to get the most energy from. And you can see right up top, as you were mentioning, you got Harmon, the 71, and the 74. Those cars are all bad fast. And you can see just how good of a push Thomas Harmon at 68 is going to get from that 71 machine being on his back bumper, and JP in the 74 just off the back of that sandwich car. As he's going to go 3 wide early on. Look at the move by the 71 machine. JP Pandolf's going to come down, give him a help, form a third lane here. Typically, the middle's not where you want to be, but that's going to roll the dice here big time like he's in Las Vegas, and that's going to potentially bring him to the front of the field, and it's going to work right now preliminarily. But look at the Butcher Benjamin fighting back by himself on the bottom.
Yeah, Thomas Harmon got shuffled out completely there, hung out to dry, as we like to say. Now you see a little bit more 3 wide towards the back of this pack, but that 71 machine, James Jacobs, with a huge push from the DRL machine, 74 JP. And I tell you what, that's a beautiful paint scheme, that 74 is. We're now getting a nice zoom in on it from our blimp cam there. But 10 years of the Dynasty Racing League. This year it's rocking the Pro Series with the ARCA cars. And I tell you what, they've got a lot more than just ARCA talent here, as you see them working 3 wide, getting down into turn number 3. That middle lane seems to be where it's at now. Taylor Butcher Benjamin has moved up in front of the 71, while the 74 moves down to the bottom. And now the 24 of Larry McKenzie Jr. is going to be the one pushing on that inside lane. A couple of cars sitting up top, but nothing doing right now. Actually, we've got two more in the middle, kind of bringing this three-wide battle a little bit more intensely.
Yeah, very interesting look at the front of the field as you kind of have this staggered offset formation. You don't see that a lot, but it was certainly working as they were able to come out and take over the energy and push Taylor the Butcher Benjamin and that 8 machine out to the point right now. And it's funny, you were talking about 10 years of Dynasty Racing League. Well, look who's up there at the front as well in that 74 machine, James Pandolf, right off the back bumper of Taylor the Butcher Benjamin. He's a big part of everything they do right there. Big shout out to him and everything that he does for this series. So it's very fitting. 10th year, why not have the man that started it all out there out front on display? And that's the man in that 74 Chevrolet.
You see him touch the apron there, but this top pack has stayed kind of 3 wide for the most part, as much as they can. The top 3 the top 3 are kind of double filed. They're 3 wide for 5th place. But not a lot of help up top for that number 14 machine of Drift Glodulage.
Yeah, DK, the Drift King, obviously making a spin off of the Burger King paint scheme. That DK reference made famous by the 3rd installment of Fast and the Furious. And you're right, he's kind of out there in no man's land. The top line of the racetrack, which is typically, pretty popular at times. But I got to give it to him, and he's doing a pretty good job of just getting a little bit of a side draft every now and then. And, of course, as I'm talking, he's going to duck in kind of into the second groove here, but he's still going to run a half a lane up. Doing a great job, though, of just maintaining his position, and now he's actually gaining some momentum here on the top side of the racetrack as he's backing up to the 71 machine. Going to see if these two guys are working together now can get a run and overtake the Butcher Benjamin on the top side of the racetrack as they drag race down the backstretch.
Yes, sir, and they've got that 66 Sam Niederhelm coming up to help them. 71 is going to be clear if he wants it, but he doesn't jump down, and for good reason. That 8th with a huge run down to the bottom with a big push from that 74 machine. These guys are going all out early on in this race. I tell you what, it's been so exciting. We forgot to give you guys the ticker. Now we get to see where your favorite drivers are running. Might jump around quite a bit as these guys are passing each other back and forth, left and right, but so far that inside lane seems to be where the most cars are. And now the 14, DK, gets down to the bottom of the racetrack. He is going to take the race lead.
Yeah, push DK to the front. You're going to see these comers and goers. Great Talladega, these plate tracks made famous for all the passing, especially with this car and this package. And just as DK goes to the front, Taylor Butcherman says not so fast. With the help from James Pandolf, he's going to look to snooker him, cut down to the inside of the racetrack. He thought about it, came back up to give the 8 a bit of a push, and he's going to hunker down in line because he's going to have a face full of Drift King on the inside. 74 is going to come up to the 71. The 71 thought about making it 3 wide. And Liam, this group of guys right here, you come to expect the high-octane racing action. They get close. Sometimes they touch, but they certainly don't wreck.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, I don't know what the number was last week, but I know going into Bristol, it was 11.2 cautions in 6 races. So now we're sitting here at Talladega. I know Bristol was kind of chaotic, a little bit more than most of these races, but we've seen clean racing out of these guys throughout the course of this season. Talladega is going to be tough, though, with these guys being bumper to bumper like this. The bumper's not lining up. But hey, Daytona went all right. These guys have a little bit more space to work with. So you see the top pack kind of separating a bit more from the rear end of the field. But these top 2, dead even through the tri-oval. See that top lane's got about 4 cars working with it. The inside getting a bit more of a push with Butcher Benjamin and Jacob Gladulich. These guys pushing hard on the inside, getting a bit more momentum. Now here comes the 14. He is not content to sit in second. He jumps up to the top side. He's going to get a push from the 74. And almost be clear getting down into turn 3. But now here comes JP looking up top. Does the 71 follow? Nope, JP didn't have quite enough of a run, jumps back in line. The second pack is just waiting for something to happen here. Matt Sisler leads it about 4 or 5 car lengths up off the lead now. But 2 other drivers sitting in this second pack right now. Thomas Harmon, Austin Collins, the 2 race winners of the season. And I know that's tough to think about when we are 8 races in. But 2 guys have gotten the job done. This is Talladega, though. We've got a chance for everybody to get this one done. And now the 14 car moves up to the top. He's getting put out 3 wide.
Yeah, these guys at the front, there's one thing that screams out to me, and that is full send. These guys are not content where they are on the racetrack. They are using the runs, and they are taking it, and you can see that by the amount of lead changes already early on in this one. As now we're going to play another round of comers and goers here. Look who's at the top side of the racetrack. That's Taylor the Butcher Benjamin, who was previously running on the bottom, and he's got a windshield full right now of James Jacobs in that 71 machine, getting a hard push. Oh, look at this. He's going to squeeze around, try to get a little bit of a side draft off the Butcher. Thought about it, but he better make a decision before he gets caught in the sucker hole, and smartly comes back up and picks up the 71 machine, as that could have been disastrous with no help in the middle. You know, you're going to go to the back in a hurry. It's like a vacuum.
Yeah, Sam Niederhelm in that 66 machine. He's got a huge push there for the 71. These guys with monstrous momentum down the back straightaway. That's going to push Sam almost up into the lead completely. Still not quite able to clear that inside lane of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. And now once again, we see that 71 jumping up to the top, whether he's trying to get some clean air to the front of that machine or if he's thinking about making a move. Every time he does that, that hurts the outside lane. And I wonder, how long is it going to take before we see these guys start to just sit single file? We know we're going to have a pit stop or 2 throughout the course of this race. And green flag pit stops are definitely not something you want to do with side by side. We saw a couple instances in the Daytona 500, for example, last week in the Cup Series. I know it's kind of crazy to think about a plate race going caution free, but with the group that we have,
You're right.
I think we should be all right. Well, maybe not all right to go caution free, but I don't think it's going to be a wreck fest.
Well, I think if it was going to get done, these would be the prime candidates within all of the series that I think I cover myself personally. I can't speak for you, as we only had 1 caution last week. So below the average, which is very low overall, only 1 caution. So I agree. Like you were saying, you can't pit, or at least you can't pit in a sequence if within the buddy system or other guys you're working with, if you're spread out between the top and the bottom. That just doesn't work. As you mentioned last week at Daytona, that proved treacherous. So as you start to see some of these guys migrating all down to the bottom, and we probably have more cars in the bottom of the racetrack right now than we've had all race long, as they try to get set up for their pit stops here, and they're going to come down in groups, and they're going to work with a little each other more at these plate tracks than they do at other tracks. But look at this battle going on at the front. No one is content with riding. If they get the run, or guess what, even if you don't want the run, if you're the second guy in line, you're going to the front, because if not, you're going to be spinning towards the back in no time. As the 71 is literally pushing all over. He's shooting the cream out of that Oreo early on in this one. These guys just so good.
That's definitely a phrase there. Taylor Butcher Benjamin moves up to the top side. Now trying to get around Sam Niederhelm. Seen that 8 car rocking the bottom side, and I know pit stops, they're not looming quite yet. I kind of talked about when these guys were to come in for green flag pit stops, you don't want to be side by side, but I believe there is not a fuel limit on these cars. They should have the ability to go about 38 or so laps. Might be a little bit more, but I would have to say this is going to be a 2-stopper. Meanwhile, we've had 4 cars on the outside consistently. There's been 4 guys up front for sure on the inside, but a couple of car lengths back before we get to the 07 machine of Larry McKenzie. He's sitting right in front of the 14, the 68, Austin Collins as well in the 1, Matt Burgess.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys sitting towards the back, too. That's some of this
up into the wall there was the 24, Larry McKenzie Jr. He should be all right, but definitely a loss of momentum there. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, certainly. Thanks for keeping us up to date. A rare slip here in the series of 24. Looks like he just caught the wall a little bit. He's able to keep his momentum up, though. He should be able to come down here and pick up the tail of this lead pack. And that's very hard to do, especially in these race cars. Anytime you hit the wall, you lose that kind of momentum. When you're able to retain most of it and stay with the pack, you count that as a blessing. As I was saying, getting back to some of these guys further on back in the pack, you know, like Thomas Harmon has 68. That's a veteran movement. These guys understand where they're at. It's Talladega. They see all this hard racing going on up in front. You see the one right behind him. These guys have won all the races so far this year, and they're both in the back. And I promise you, they're back there for a reason right now. They're just riding the storm. This way, they have some time to react if it's up in front of them. Because sometimes when you're right in the offset of that accident, when it happens, there's no time to react. You have nowhere to go. At least right now, in that 11th position and 12th position where you find Thomas Harmon and Austin Collins, there's a little bit of a safety window, and they can save their stuff, potentially work together, get towards the front when it counts. But sometimes you can go the other way too. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. We continue to go on board here, getting some new great camera angles here from Liam, our managing producer here tonight. And you can see just how close these cars are, in fact, piped together, drafting at over 190 miles an hour at times. Just one slip the wrong way, and these cars do jostle around a little bit, especially with all that dirty air. It doesn't take much. This is a great representation of just how much skill you're seeing on display here tonight in prime time, Saturday night.
17 laps are complete here. That outside lane starting to formulate a little bit more. Got 4 cars up on the outside. That 24, we mentioned he scraped the wall. Now he's sitting up in 6th place, trying to get around most of these guys up on the inside. He's at the tail end of the outside lane, but these guys have caught David Wright, who has gone down 1 lap. So he's kind of hoping for a caution here to get that free pass. Currently the only driver 1 lap down. Justin Sorrell did not end up starting the race. So 16 guys with the start. David Wright, I believe, started from the pit lane. And has unfortunately been overtaken by the lead pack, but currently the only car 1 lap down. Should get the free pass if we get a caution. But the one thing, the one problem about that is, see some jostling for position there. The one problem about that is that you don't want to be caught up in the caution with no fast repairs.
Well, that's the other one, and the other part is these guys typically don't produce a lot of cautions. If David Wright could potentially be waiting until lap 90 to get back on the lead lap. Now, I'm speculating. I'm just using that as a reference point because these guys don't wreck. And I know you're like, Matt, what are you talking about? You know, Liam and I, we have been here. We have witnessed some of the greatest saves probably we have ever seen in ARCA cars. These guys are just phenomenal. They touch. They typically don't wreck. And to get back to your point about David Wright starting from the from pit road there, it could be a long waiting game for him. Just put yourself in position. If it does fly, you're right back in it, and you got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, he might have had some sort of problem or something that caused him to get in late, but looks like he's trying to get it done the hard way as he has now come down and cleared the 8 of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. 24 tried to follow him down. Didn't quite work. But I wonder if Taylor's going to be okay with sitting behind that lap car. It's not for position. He can maybe get behind him, save some fuel, drag or run a little bit less throttle. But David Wright currently sitting at the very tail end of the lead lap, and he is just hoping for something to happen behind him.
Yeah, that's all you can do. You got to hope, you got to pray. Obviously, don't do the rain dance, and that's not going to happen here in the virtual sim. But you just hope it's not you. Anything that can change the momentum of the race and give you an advantage, that's certainly what you want if you're that race car driver right now.
See that outside lane trying a little bit more on pushing, and the 24 of McKenzie is going to get out front just a nose. He's plenty clear of the leader, but obviously the lap car, the 42, sits in front on the outside. It is just 3 cars up top at the front of the field here. Everybody else has jumped down to the bottom, and everybody else is sitting here in the lead pack. So every driver in the field right now is on your screen as we go down into turn number 1. 21 laps complete here at Talladega.
Yeah, 21 laps completed here at Talladega, and that's just how fast these laps do go by at this massive 2.66 mile oval silver megaplex. Forget special, we'll call it megaplex here, right in the heart of Alabama, Talladega country. Lap 22 in the books currently right now. I know we have 100% fuel load here, so that puts us, like you were saying, lap 38 to lap 40 as far as they can go on fuel. But how do you think those tires are holding up right now? You think tires are going to come into a play if we remain green?
Not too much, I don't think. I feel like the banking is enough, and the track is wide enough. Not super abrasive. I don't think these guys are going to have too much for tire issues throughout the course of this race. Might see some guys taking fuel only when they come in for a green flag pit stop, if that ends up being the case. Maybe see some right sides just because they've got the time. But I don't think we're going to see very many people take the full pit stop, try to take 4 tires.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well said. And especially, when these guys out here right now, they just know how to manage their equipment. They know how to manage the draft right now. But they can still manage and put on a great show. I mean, Larry McKenzie Jr. out front right now. He's up 10 spots. And ironically, the 74 of James Pandolf, the 74, up 10 spots as well. And then drop back 1 position. We're going to hop the 45 machine back to the 4th place car of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. He's the biggest mover of the race, up 13. So you got the biggest movers of the race inside the top 4 at this time. That's incredible. This really came out of this.
Yeah, it sure is. You mentioned Brandon Brorby. He's up 7 spots. JP up 4. Larry McKenzie Jr., he started 3rd. He's up in the race lead right now. So we look at Sam Niederhelm. He's actually up 4 as well. Larry McKenzie in the 0-7. He's up 7 spots from where he started.
Now, you can also argue the point, well, Matt, this is designed here too. We talked about this a couple minutes ago. Is you still see, one of the favorites here tonight, 2 of the favorites in Thomas Harmon and Austin Collins working together in that 12th and 13th position, just outside the top 10. The waiting game in the back. Don't forget about them. Don't think they're out of it just if we're not hearing us talk about them a lot until further on in this one. I assure you that's a calculated move by the driver and teams as you see this pack up front relentlessly not giving an inch as the 42 is going to take his turn to the front of the field. Another lead change here in the books.
That's the 24, Larry McKenzie Jr. David Wright sitting 1 lap down as of right now, doing everything he can to try to get that lead lap spot back. He definitely doesn't want to see cars next to him, though. That is an unnerving position to be in, especially this late in the run. But 3 cars sitting up top, Larry McKenzie, JP, and the 8, or not the 8, rather, 45 of Brandon Brorby up top. These guys working together and working together well. Like we said, there's only 3 cars up on that top side, but they're staying up with the leaders.
Yeah, thank you for the correction there. And I guess it's not very often these days do you see the guy trying to get the lead back the old school way, but hey, it makes sense. We're in this old school car, and it always put on great races. We got 3 wide. Look at that, the 24 Larry McKenzie Jr. He is stuck in what they used to call the sucker hole, and he is hanging there pretty good right now. I'm actually impressed. Typically, back in the day, you get caught right there in the middle. It acts as a vacuum cleaner, and you would shoot right to the back. But he's almost like using the side force maybe off of the lines at the top and the bottom to kind of hold him in this position there. The only problem is no one's going to come up to help him, because he's going to try to come up and side draft. Wow, that was impressive. Side draft, the 45 there of Brandon Brorby. It actually gets a run and pulls ahead slightly. I haven't seen that work in a long time.
Yeah, it used to be a tough spot to be in the middle, but I'm just not sure there's enough cars up on the top side to make it hurt him as much. You see these guys mostly single file up on the inside, but that's 3 wide for 3rd place right now. And that top side, like you mentioned, hasn't quite been able to put the 24 in that sucker hole, and now maybe they're separating a little bit more, getting behind the 24. Yes, they are. JP going to get behind the 24, try to push him back up. But for right now, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, he's going to have the race lead, pushing that lapped car, almost a lapped car, of David Wright in the 42.
Yeah, the 42 right now definitely helping the 8 by being actually the lead car pulling the pack around the racetrack. When you're the initial car, right, you're punching the first gap in all this fresh air, you're typically not going to get the fuel mileage that everyone else is in that train. So the 42 actually acted as a fuel mule, or I believe that's what Tony calls it, a fuel mule, helping the 8 car not only remain up front, but also helping them with this fuel mileage as well.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that Taylor Butcher Benjamin is going to want to see. I'm not entirely sure what the fuel numbers look like on these things, but if you're going to have any chance of making this a one-stopper versus 2, you definitely don't want to be leading the line, especially the leading line. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, he's led a lot of this race so far, and I know it's been easy to talk about how lead changes can happen, and Talladega can generally be kind of a crapshoot, so to speak, when it comes to who could win. Anything can happen. But Taylor Butcher Benjamin, he's been strong all day. Somebody who hasn't quite been strong, I would say hasn't quite been strong, but we haven't seen him up front a whole heck of a lot today. Andrew McKenzie in that 06, he's sitting in 2nd spot right behind the Butcher, trying to defend from that 24 and the rest of the boys up top. But Andrew McKenzie sits in 3rd place, having himself a phenomenal show.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree with you anymore. Well said. You know, everyone, as a driver, everyone takes a liking to certain types of track. Some guys excel at the short tracks, others the intermediates, and then you have your plate aces. And maybe that's Larry McKenzie Jr.'s or Andrew McKenzie's niche. Maybe he's a plate race guy. He's certainly been strong, like you said, from the drop of the green flag, and he's certainly really cemented himself in the 2nd spot, really working with Taylor the Butcher Benjamin on the low side since we dropped the green flag. I still can't get over how the 24 of Larry McKenzie Jr. got put in the infamous middle and came out the other side ahead of Pandolf and James Jacobs. I'll be safe in that replay.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't think there was enough cars up on the top to really make that vacuum effect happen. I think there was
42. He is not the leader, just for you guys watching at home. He is still technically on the lead lap, but just moments from going a lap down should that 8 machine decide to get around him. But that's going to let him get his lap back the old school way, taking the wave around before you'd get a lucky dog by using updated scoring and timing rules of today. But the racing been action-packed since the drop of the green flag. It's been an accordion at the front of the field. All these different drivers cycling, taking the runs, leading a little bit, and then rinse and repeat process. No caution flags in sight. We're currently rolling by lap 32 here at the line.
Yes, sir. Taylor Butcher Benjamin leading the race. JP going to try to take that run up on the outside. We saw those top 2 on the top side kind of drifting back a little bit, but more drivers looking up, trying to help them. Brandon Brorby all over the back bumper of that 74. Here comes Sam Niederhelm with a little bit of help from, I believe, the 22 of James Goodman. He's going to try to make this a 4-car tango up top. Meanwhile, JP is almost clear of that 42 on the inside. Maybe thought about getting down in front, but didn't quite have enough of the speed. And now, there goes that 42, David Wright, getting his lap back, trying to help Taylor Butcher Benjamin get up to the front. Sam Niederhelm jumps back down to the bottom, so now there's only 3 on the top side. James Goodman trying to get to the back bumper of that 45 machine, but still sits just a couple of car lengths, and it doesn't seem like those 2 up on top really need the help. I'm sure they would appreciate it, but these guys have been sticking with the lead of the inside lane for many a lap at this point, and we are approaching, or just past rather, a third of the way through this race. These guys are still going at it like there's like it's either the start or the finish. This is not looking like a middle of the race type of deal.
Yeah, this is not kick back, relax, and sip on some snacks from the cockpit of the race car mode. Right now, is like you said, these guys have just been all over each other from the drop of the green flag. To mention what you were saying about the top line, even if you did have the run, I wouldn't want to be the guy to try and jump down and block the 42 because, I mean, well, just as I said that, here we go, the 74, James Pandolf, getting pushed by, it looks like the 45 of Brandon Broby. The Trojan man's going to jump up top in the 22 to give him some help on the high side. Let's see if three of them can get it done. The 22 is going to have to just get a little bit tighter. They're not going to have the momentum quite yet. But I was saying, I wouldn't want to be the driver to drop down in front of that 42 unless you had a ton of real estate, because you know he's not going to give that position up easily.
No, he's not. We're starting to get a little dicey up at the front here. Brandon Broby looks to the inside of JP. A little bit of contact there against the 74 sideways, but everybody gets through. That's going to jumble up the guys up on the top, slow them down in comparison to the drivers on the inside. We'll see if these guys decide to slot in, but a bit of separation created with that bit of an incident. Yes, indeed, those two Dynasty Racing League cars get down to the inside and leave the 22 of James Goodman out to dry.
Well, it was almost like that moment enough right there was a big enough of a warning to get these guys to just dial it back, perhaps just for a minute here, is that was huge for as JP Pandolf and company there almost had it wreck. At these types of speeds and this many laps on those tires, yes, I know that Talladega is not as abrasive as other tracks, but that was impressive that both those drivers were able to recover the race cars in that manner and continue underway under green flag conditions. As we're approaching lap 35, that could also be why we're seeing some separation here and cars migrating towards the bottom as we have to be getting ready for our first round of pit stops.
Well, Matt, I think you hit the nail on the head. We've got to be getting ready for green flag pit stops with 35 laps complete, rocking lap number 36. So we're going to go ahead and take a break here and come back live with the pit sequence. Appreciate you tuning in. This is the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series on Sim Racing Media. Back live here at Talladega Superspeedway. You haven't really missed a thing. Most of the guys have gotten single file now, but in terms of pit stops is what I mean. You haven't missed much. These guys still out on the racetrack. 39 laps complete, rocking lap number 40. And it's maybe looking like these guys might be able to make it a one-stopper. What do you think, Matt?
Well, rocking lap 40, that was kind of with you. I was thinking this would have been the edge as far as you could go with a full fuel cell. I would imagine they got to have fumes in that race car, but then again, we're not out there on the racetrack and we can't see their telemetry to know for certain. But if they run a couple more laps here, yeah, you're absolutely right. Outside of going into overtime, you make another couple circuits, that certainly would put you into the option of making it a one-stop race. You're absolutely right.
Everybody single file right now from first all the way back to 16th, I'll say. While 16th place leads this line. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, the 8 car, leads the race in the second car in line. Number 8 Oreo Machine, followed by Andrew McKenzie sitting in second place. JP sits in third. Brandon Burby. We saw these guys working well on the outside together. Then Larry McKenzie Jr. rounding out the top 5 in that Skull Bandit.
Yeah, that's the top 5. And in 6th, Larry McKenzie. 7th, that's going to be the 39 machine of Dustin Jones. And in 9th, that's going to be James Goodman piloting the 22. And rounding out the top 10 tonight, he was up front a little earlier, has fallen back a little bit. That's going to be the 20 of James Goodman.
I'll take a moment to ride on board here with Sam Niederhelm in 8th place. A couple of car lengths behind that second pack, but you see just how quickly he's able to close in on these guys if they have a little bit of a checkup. And when you're running single file like this, it is really easy to have that happen. As now he gets a run, he moves up to the top side. He's going to try to take a few positions away. Here comes McKenzie up in the top side trying to block it. Doesn't quite make it work, but he's going to have plenty of momentum. Now here comes Niederhelm, going to get back down to the bottom, and here comes most of the field up front.
Whoa, that's a lot of cars coming down pit road. Hopefully they can all get wound up in time. A lot of tire smoke, but everyone looks to get into the pits cleanly here as suddenly the pit road at Talladega here roars to life as a bulk of the field's going to come down here. Looks like they're going to pit in 2 groups. This could be sequence 1, and as they meet their pit stops and leave, we should see the leaders, currently the 39 of Dustin Jones, cycles to the front of the pylon with Austin Collins and Matt Burgess as these guys currently get service done on their race cars.
Yeah, Butcher Benjamin, Larry McKenzie Jr., JP, Andrew McKenzie, Larry McKenzie, and David Wright all coming in to get service done on their race cars. But the rest of the field, the top 10 stays out, or rather the top 9. We'll see where these guys come in relation to the rest of the field. But getting down into the pits, a lot of guys staying out. It looks like the 22 had to make a last-minute call to stay up on the racetrack. That's going to hurt his time tremendously as 3 drivers have come into the pits now. It's Sam Niederhelm, Jacob Gladulich, and James Jacobs. Dustin Jones hits the race lead right now in that 39 Silver Bullet Coors Light machine. Austin Collins sits in second place, Matt Burgess in third, and then you've got a couple of about a second and a half actually back to Thomas Harmon and Matt Sisler. We're trying to get a touch draft from each other, but trying not to lose the cars in front of them. We'll see if these guys come into the pits this time. But I tell you what, lap 44 of 94. Yes, these top 3 come into the pits. Harmon and Sisler follow. Big lockup out of the 39. I don't think they can make it from this point in the race.
Yeah, you're asking just too much on the hope and edge and prayer of a fuel window there. I mean, if there was a caution, you might be able to do that, and I use that term very loosely because I don't want to hear about the commenter. If you do have any problems with the caution, though, send all the hate mail to jleach@gmail.com. He'll be happy to take care of that for you. As we currently see Thomas Harmon and company now on pit road, that 68 machine. I know we talk about him a lot, but tonight he's playing the safe route in the back as he gets service done on that race car. He's going to lead this group off pit road with the 39 of Dustin Jones and the 93 of Matt Sizzler.
Here comes the rest of the pack, strong into turn number 1. We'll see where these guys blend in, but it is not looking close for the 68 machine. We saw him lose the draft a little bit earlier on with the pit stops happening, and now all 5 of the top 5 are going to get away from him. Might have a sniff of their draft, but Dustin Jones and Matt Sisler are probably going to be his best friends. Maybe JP and DK if they can get up to these guys, along with that 71 of James Jacobs. But pit stops really separating this field. James Goodman had to come in by himself. We see him off the pace. Austin Collins, Matt Burgess come into the pits this time. Potentially had some speeding penalties to assess.
Yeah, and I would certainly think there's going to be a couple, as we've seen some of these guys coming in just a little bit too hot. All that tire smoke indicative of locking them up, just trying to get down to that pit road crawling speed, you know, compared to what they're running out there in the pack. You know, to bring up a point, you know, we're going to have some cars. We're going to have like groups out there in sections. That's a byproduct of plate racing and pitting under green flag situations out there on the racetrack. Sometimes if you got a two-car tandem and you got, let's say, a group of 3 cars, maybe a second and a half behind you, sometimes it's actually more effective for those guys in front to burp the throttle, pick up that other part of the train, and that effectively you can gain more time working together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the more cars you have in this train, the quicker you're going to be, which is why these two, Sam Niederhelm and Austin Collins, are hoping to be able to stick with this draft. They're obviously racing each other for a potential free pass position. I believe actually David Wright is going to be, well, he sits just in front of your race leader. So he's not going to get the free pass. He's going to have his lap back for being just barely on the lead lap. Matt Burgess, Austin Collins, and Sam Niederhelm. These 3 are going to be racing for the free pass in case we have a caution. But running lap 47, we're going to complete halfway this time around. Still caution free. We can't guarantee anything in this league.
No, we certainly learned that you got to throw the script, the rule book out the window. These guys tend to rewrite it each and every week in dramatic fashion. And I can't say enough about these guys holding on so far for their life at the tail end of these lead laps. We've seen the 42 do it earlier. 42, the David Wright do it earlier on, and this one basically was out there leading the entire field, holding off all those charges. And then again here,
he's still doing that up front.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. I can't remember how far back in time you'd have to go to see someone execute, a good of a job doing as I've ever seen out there, even in real life. This is incredible.
And as you say that, we've got a couple more of those guys who are now 1 lap down. Austin Collins and Sam Niederhelm, all 3 of the lap down cars, they come up to the top. They're going to split. They're going to put the 42 in the middle. And now the one of Austin Collins, he's going to sit in that either free pass position. Here comes Sam Niederhelm down to the bottom. Rather, the middle. Everybody now, all the 4 up top are racing for the free pass. The 4 on the bottom are racing for the race lead right now.
This is crazy. It's like you have the potential lap down cars are about to be lap down cars. They've formed a team of their own, all working together, and then you have the leaders working together in a separate group on the other side of the racetrack.
Things starting to heat up just a little bit now as you see that 42 stuck in the middle. Sam Niederhelm sits in the free pass position trying to get his lap back the hard way. And if he does, that 1 car right behind him is going to be another main beneficiary if he can be in that free pass spot. Or hey, maybe if he can even get his lap back as well out on the racetrack.
Right, and here's the 42. We seen this earlier. 42 is not going backwards. In fact, he's coming back up through the field. Look at that. He was able to get a run and jump back to the outside line. Are you kidding me? That's happened twice in this race now. I don't know if they've changed the aero package on this car since we've seen this car in real life on the racetrack, but that is just incredible driving by the 42 as he looks to get the help from the 1 machine out his back window. And that's going to be Austin Collins, who we know is bad fast, to see if he can get back to the front, get around the 66. That's not the leader. He's fighting for the last car in the lead lap. Check the box. The 42 goes back to the lead car. Well, I shouldn't say lead car. The first car in the free pass position as they battle for the lead off his bumper.
I tell you what, at that moment, right when I opened my mouth, there were 3 of these top 4 that were laps down. Not laps down, but racing to get their lap back. If the caution came out at that moment, Sam Niederhelm would have gotten the free pass. At this moment even, Niederhelm would get the free pass. Well, shoot, they're all in front of the race leader right now. We've got 4 drivers at the tail end of the lead lap racing for their lives. Meanwhile, all that's going on, we've got ourselves a heck of a pack catching up to these leaders. These guys staying single file. The top 4 in this pack are JP, DK, James Jacobs, and Thomas Harmon, and they have caught up to this lead pack now.
Yeah, certainly all this side-by-side racing up here near the front of the train, we'll call it for this instance, will definitely help, like you said, Thomas Harmon and the rest of those guys running single file to be able to reattach themselves to this lead pack up here up front, and that's exactly what they wanted to see. This allows them to get a little bit of relief, regain their mental stability, just calm down a little bit in that race car, because you know how hard it is.
Here comes JP up to the top side. He's taking the lead over Taylor Butcher Benjamin, but these lap cars definitely throwing a wrench in it. And Matt, I tell you what, you cannot feel good with all these lap cars up in here. Now they're getting almost 4 wide through the tri-oval.
That's I don't even want to go there, because as soon as I seen that coming, I'm like, oh my God, you have all these cars up here fighting for their life. It's about to get dicey, and it's everything right now up to the front of the field. I can't even believe what I'm witnessing. This is absolutely awesome here in prime time tonight, as Austin Collins here right now in that 1 machine. He is now going to be he's going to be the first car not on the lead lap to lead the train around the racetrack. This is such a tongue twister at times. As you see the 1 and the 42, JP, James Pandolf, I believe that's for position for the lead up there on the top side, working with the Drift King in the 14 machine.
You see that top side? The 74 getting a huge run. We'll slow it down just a little bit. I know the action is intense right now, but the 1 car, the 12 car, the 42, and the 66, they are all sitting 1 lap down or on the tail end of the lead lap, depending on where they are relative to the 74. Now here comes the 8. The 8 is coming to the inside for the race lead. All 4 of these drivers are now on the tail end of the lead lap that you see in front of the 74 and the 8 machine. These guys are praying for a caution all around. They don't want to have to take the free pass to start behind everybody, but, well, being the tail end of the field, it's not going to make much of a difference, as now Taylor Butcher Benjamin is the race leader. They're 3 wide for second place coming up off of turn number 4. You saw that 06 machine get a little bit loose relative to the 71 and James Jacobs. Now here comes JP with a push from Jacob Gladulich up on the top side. Now they're coming up on the 22 with Slow Machine. 55 laps into this race, and we still haven't even seen our first yellow flag.
Yeah, that's hard to believe with all this dynamic racing action we've had up here at Talladega from the start of the green flag. You know, to add on to what you were saying, I think this is one of the only times you would actually want to work with the cars that were essentially all fighting for your life to kind of stay in formation and work together as long as you can stay in front of James Jacobs, the 71 machine, who's currently the leader right now.
Yeah, James Jacobs and Taylor Butcher Benjamin side by side for the race lead. It's definitely an odd situation with the top 4 in this pack not being racing for the lead. These guys racing each other for position. But anybody who gets passed by that 71, the 8, the 74, one of these guys, they're going to have to be battling for the free pass. They want to stay up in front of this lead pack or in front of these leaders just in case that caution comes out.
Yeah, this reminds me of a song by the Beastie Boys. You got to fight for your right to party, but in this case, you got to fight for your right to stay on the lead lap. And that's exactly what we're saying.
Oh, and we've got problems. Austin Collins gets turned around. Sam Niederhelm.
Holy hell. What just happened?
James Goodman
seen
gets a piece of it. The 66 down in the grass. That brings out our first caution of the day, and it's going to take out some of the guys that were up front racing for their lap back. Talking about Austin Collins and Sam Niederhelm.
I'm not sure what happened there. I seen a car slow. Looked like, I don't know if it was someone that just came off pit road or was slow in front of them. And he acted like a javelin. The lead pack just engulfed him. And it was like a bomb went off in the middle of the pack and cars went flying everywhere. Did not expect to see this. We're going to have to sort this one out.
So these guys are coming up on the 07 of Larry McKenzie. Let's go ahead and... No, that's a bad cam. So they're coming up on the 07. He's kind of in the middle of the track. He comes down. I think Austin Collins checks up. Gets jacked up by the 12. Both of them go sideways. David Wright gets into the 66. Gets him turned sideways. Turns the 66 back up into the wall and in front of Brandon Brorby. The 66 almost upside down. Larry McKenzie caught up in it in the back as well. Matt Sisler locks it up.
I still haven't caught my breath yet. I mean, these guys, as we've talked about, over, several races now, as we see the 71, the 8, and the 74 coming down to get pit road to get service on their race cars. I guess when you do something, you do it big. And when these guys do produce a caution, that's about as big as you're ever going to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. Things tend to happen quickly here at Talladega, but we'll jump back to the live. Most everybody coming down the pits to get some service done. The top 10 entirely in there. David Wright going to try to get his lap back. He's got a touch of damage there from some of the contact to bring out that caution. He's hoping it's not something super detrimental. The 12 you saw get turned around as well. Doesn't look too terribly hurt.
But I think this is certainly going to shuffle things up in the field just a little bit here, as we're currently working now lap 58. A little more than halfway through, and our first caution of the day comes out in an epic way here on the racetrack. Is that iRacing.com pace car is going to pull back onto the field and slow things down here just a little bit momentarily.
Now that gives us a good chance to step away to break here after 57 laps complete at Talladega Superspeedway. We're under caution for the first time. This is the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series on Sim Racing Media. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Steven Cherrick. I'm the rear tire changer on the number 24 GMS Chevrolet, and you're watching Sim Racing Media.
All right, we are back here for the restart here. Lap 59 out of 94. Going to be lap 60 when we take the restart, which means 35 laps to go. Currently, the top 13 sit on the lead lap. Austin Collins is the last one in the pack. DK hoping to get up to the pack here before the restart happens. Might be a tough ask as the pace car makes that hard left turn down into the pit lane. Larry McKenzie's going to follow him there, likely a penalty. But Taylor Butcher Benjamin, Andrew McKenzie, James Jacobs, James Pandolf, and Thomas Harmon, your top 5, going to lead him down.
Here we go, and the number 8 machine leads him into the Geico restart zone, and he's going to stand tall on it as these guys come roaring back to life here in southern Alabama. Talladega at this 2.66 megaplex, one of the fastest tracks you'll ever see on the NASCAR racing circuit. 2x2, they drag race. Coming, oh my God, look at the run from the Drift King. I'm going to say somebody timed the restart there, looking like Gold Trickle on Days of Thunder.
That's that old Kyle Busch move. We saw him do it in the shootout, but now he's way out front. Not sure how race control is going to like that, but I tell you what, he's going to get swallowed up by the pack before they have a chance to even react to it. You already see that 8 car, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, getting up to the backside. Nobody's going to want to help him. He's already losing plenty of spots here.
Yeah, he kind of went down to the racetrack very willingly to get out of the way. He's probably thinking more about that decision he made there as we continue to see that lead pack come on by, led by Taylor the Butcher Benjamin. It's the 71 of James Jacobs, the 68 of Thomas Harmon. Look who's heading towards the front of the field now later on in the race than this one. Never say too late, especially at Talladega. And that was the thought process. That was the game plan, I thought, before the race, as we've seen Harmon working with Collins in the back of the field earlier on in this one, just buying their time, waiting for the right time. And the time is now for the 68 machine of Thomas Harmon, getting a lot of help there from Matt Burgers in that 12 machine, working the high side of the racetrack. Look for him to be up here contending for the win here from this point in time forward.
Yeah, and Matt Burgess, you mentioned him. He was one of those guys racing for his lap back along with David Wright in the 42. Both of these guys currently sitting racing for the top 5 position. That 06 Andrew McKenzie, though, he's trying to make things hard on David Wright as he sits on the back end of the top lane here. The 12 all over the back bumper of Thomas Harmon, and that might get you a little bit squirrely, but it's kind of what you got to do if you want to get these guys out front. Now you see the 14 jumping back up to the top. He's actually maybe got himself a problem as he sits a little bit slower towards the wall.
Yeah, he actually bumped the wall there a little bit too. We'll have to keep you guys updated on there as we get an update from the 14 team. But up front right now, like you were saying, I mean, these guys, they race so hard, they almost force you to bump draft, which is something that's really challenging and difficult to do in this race car. The front of that car acts like a jack when you come up to the back bumper of the car in front of you. So you have to be gentle, you have to be easy. And at 190 miles an hour, it's very, very difficult to really understand how much momentum you're getting from the draft, how much accelerator to put into the mix so you don't spin that out in front of you. And that's just going to show you how good of race car drivers that we have on display here out on this field here for you guys tonight. It is anything but easy, and they are executing it very well here lap after lap.
Yeah, they certainly are. That top side working quite well with only 3 drivers right now. You see the 12, Matt Burgess, doing everything he can to push Thomas Harmon out to the front. Like Matt had mentioned, the bump drafting gets to be tough when you're at 190 miles an hour and these bumpers not lining up. You can definitely lift the tires up off of the rear of the car in front of you. Lift them up off the ground if you get into them too hard. When you're working through these corners, that is definitely not something you want to have happen. As now the inside lane seems to be getting a little bit more of a run. This 71 and 8 car hooked up well together, sitting at the door of Thomas Harmon, not quite able to make the pass on the outside. Now the inside lane seems to be prevailing. James Jacobs doing a pretty good job of pushing, but that outside lane has been absolutely incredible with the way that they've been pushing. Even these top two.
Yeah, I'll say it. We've seen that a couple times tonight. How that top lane, they may be the few, but they are the proud up there, as they've been fending off, that well-formed line on the bottom side of the racetrack that has often had the numbers, but just like you mentioned, just drafting so well at the top side with Thomas Harlan, Harmon, Taylor the Butcher, Benjamin, Matt Bergres and company. They've been actually able to stay up there and fight with these guys. And it's crazy to go back to just a couple laps ago. We've seen these same names up in the front, but this time it's for position, even though you would think they were for position before, but really they were fighting to stay on the last lap.
Yeah, but they definitely showed why they deserve to be up front, talking about the 12 and the 42. And you see these guys making a pretty strong run. You saw the 07 coming up off of the pits down the back straightaway. Some of the drivers having to take evasive action. Matt Sisler was one of them, and he seems to be losing this lead pack just a little bit. He's got Austin Collins behind him. Collins obviously with some damage from that previous wreck. Matt Sisler trying to stay with this lead pack, and it might not be too tough while they're sitting 2 and 3 wide in front of him. But these cars don't punch as big of a hole as, say, the next gen cars do, or, the old Gen 6 cars do as well. Top side seeming to prevail once again. Just those 3 cars sitting up there. Taylor, Butcher, Benjamin doing everything he can up on the bottom side, but Thomas Harmon, he's got a big push from Matt Burgess, and that's been working every single time around. That time at the line, Thomas Harmon held the lap by just a couple of thousandths there.
Yeah, it's almost like every time you think that bottom side, that bottom lane, the 8 and the 71 are finally going to clear him, Harmon gets a masterful push from that 71 machine the 12 machine of Matt Burgess there, and is able to inch him just ahead slightly. And again, I can't say what incredible drafting work we're seeing on the top side of the racetrack, with 2 and 3 cars being able to keep pace with the great group of drivers at the bottom, working the bottom lane. If you're the 42 of David Wright, the 12 of Matt Burgess, this is why you work so hard to fight and stay up there on the end of the lead lap. Now they're reaping their reward, and they're right up here inside the top 5. Potentially anyone could win this thing, but now they're really in this thing that they don't have to worry about going a lap down, at least right now as they run.
And another thing they don't have to worry about is fuel. With that caution coming out, everybody came in, made a pit stop. They should be able to make it to the end as we see these guys coming up on the 22 machine of James Goodman. Looks like he's going to stay up to the top. Shouldn't cause too much of trouble for these guys, but definitely gets to be a sketchy moment when you get 3 wide.
Yeah, I
top
think
6
anytime
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think anytime you see a single car, closing in, or having the pack closing in on a single car, it gets sketchy for just a couple moments, just because, at times when there is an incident, usually it's epic and involves a lot of vehicles.
Yeah, that is the case, and these guys definitely want to avoid the big one here, but only 10 cars, 12 cars maybe in this lead pack right now as Sisler and Collins kind of fall back, or Sisler rather, and Jones. Matt Sisler sitting behind this pack in 10th place. It'll be interesting to see if he's going to be able to get back up to these guys as we ride on board. Oh, and problems up in front!
Oh my goodness. It looked like the 71 there had saved it there for just a moment, and then carnage broke loose on the top side. Had a couple cars spin. Definitely got into the wall there, but a very uncharacteristic second caution comes out here at Daytona, as Taylor the Butcher Benjamin's going to lead him to the caution flag. And we're going to find ourselves under caution now at lap 70 here, as David Wright, Thomas Harmon, James Pandolf, and Jacobs round out your top 5. As the iRacing.com pace car pulls off a little drift move there, as they're going to go ahead and catch the back and form up behind that pace car once again here and bring us back down to pace speed. I didn't see that one coming. Did you, Liam?
No, we're going to take a look to see what happened here. It looks like the 12 just gets into the back of the 68 a little bit, gets him turned sideways. That's what got the 71 sideways down on the inside. The 12 checks up just a touch for the 68 in front of him. Ends up getting hit by the 06, turned around. Both of those guys get up into the wall, make some heavy contact. That's Andrew McKenzie in the 06, Matt Burgess in the 12. Both of these guys facing some heavier damage late on in the race. Completing lap number 69 right now is Taylor Butcher Benjamin. But a tough break for both of these drivers, bringing out the caution for only the second time today. And I tell you what, 25 laps to go. This is really where things are going to start heating up.
Ask it to heat up anymore, right? I mean, it's been hot. It's been wild from the drop of the green flag. I mean, the storyline's just, all the passes for the lead up front. Then you had the group of about to be lap downers working as a team to collectively stay in front of the leader, and they execute, they get the job done. Then we had that huge implosion, that caution that struck and kind of slowed things down, allowed those cars that were elite a lap down fighting for their life, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart here. Like the 12 machine out there on the racetrack, the 42, who has been right back in it. And now again, as you said, working lap 71. Now the caution flag comes back out, and we know it's going to go up another level. I can't wait to see what this is going to look like. So pull your belts tight one more time, get another drink. If you're a driver, grip those gloves a little harder on the steering wheel, because it's about to get next level.
Yeah, we're going to take it up a notch, that's for sure. These guys working lap number 71, 24 laps to go here at Talladega Superspeedway. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, he's been in front for a good portion of this race. You got to wonder if he's,
And it
I wouldn't
seems
say
like
getting nervous or anything. He seems to be able to hold on to position quite well, but he's been close plenty of times this year. He's got to be wondering, is this going to be the day he breaks through?
Well, you're taking the words right out of my mouth. How many times this season have we seen that 8 machine, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, leading or be in position to win until his kryptonite shows up in the form of that 68 machine, Thomas Harmon, who's just been so good on the long run, or trouble finds the 8 machine. He hasn't been able to break through, but tonight that 8 car seems to be, I think, one of the fastest cars in the field. Harmon working great on the outside, just hasn't shown that he's had the speed to sustain the lead or take that lead from the 8 car. Tonight could be his night, but we know how Talladega likes to play spoiler and heartbreak late. We're just going to have to see who prevails here until the end.
Not going to be a lot of time left for these guys to figure it out. 20 laps, it seems like a lot at a 2 2/3 mile oval, but these laps are going to click away fairly quickly here as the lights go off on our iRacing pace car, that Ford Mustang. It's going to be Taylor Butcher Benjamin, Thomas Harmon, David Wright, James Pandolf, and Brandon Brorby rounding out your top 5. Brorby, we saw get involved in that first incident.
Yeah, that's right. Brandon Broby was involved in the first incident out here today. Caution flag number 1. And he's had a nice recovery, currently in the 5th position in that 45 machine. Let's jump up one position to James Pandolf, the 74. He's backing up his run last week. You know, they always say momentum breeds momentum. And James Pandolf in that 74 machine just proving how that works. And he's been solid up inside the top 4, top 5 here throughout most of the night. But if you're a race car driver, you got a water bottle on board, go ahead, get one last sip of liquid in your system. Tighten everything up. Pull the belts tight. Make sure your visor's clicked in really good, because it's about to go next level, like you said. And it's about to go from 0 to 100 here when this iRacing.com pace car makes that hard right-hand turn down pit road.
So it'll be 22 laps to go at the restart. We got Butcher Benjamin and Thomas Harmon in the front row. And David Wright, James Pandolf, Brandon Burby, Dustin Jones, James Jacobs, and Austin Collins making a recovery here. Matt Sisler came in for an extended pit stop. And Matt Burgess, we saw get turned around to bring out that caution. Looks like they got some repair work done on that left front fender, but we'll see how that thing handles in the draft. Pace cars made that hard left turn. Taylor Butcher Benjamin leads him down on what could be the longest wait for the green flag in the Cup Series, or in any NASCAR series, rather. Got to go all the way through the tri-oval to get to the start-finish line, but green flag is out. 22 laps to go. Racing once again at Talladega.
Here we go, back green flag racing. Thomas Harmon on the outside. Taylor the Butcher Benjamin on the inside. Is the train's dual drag racing coming back up through the gearbox. The 8 and the 42 are going to prevail on the low side as they were better formed up on the bottom side for the initial start of that race. Don't count out that Silver Bullet yet either. He's one heck of a pusher as well. It's a continuation of that drag race down the backstretch as both lines not giving up an inch, bumping and grinding for all the speed they can get out of these race cars. The 74 is going to look high. Think about it. The 42 Silver Bullet, he's going to ride that high line of the racetrack. I'm not so sure that's a good move as the one's going to pick up the draft off the back of James Pandolf there. Clear him. He's going to bump back a spot. But that bottom line is going to get formed up now, led by the 8 machine, bringing the 71 and the 45 with him.
Yeah, that inside looking very well right now, but just as I say that, everything starts to kind of scatter out a little bit. The 74 looked up top. Austin Collins, you see the third car in line on the outside, trying to figure out where to go. He's working with that top side pretty well. These guys...
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little worried as you starting to see these trains, these lines doing the snake, doing the shake. That's usually indicative. If that stays, if they stay doing that, there's going to be something going to happen here in the form of a wreck, especially as we continue to wind down these laps here. But Taylor the Butcher Benjamin, Thomas Harmon, David Wright, James Pandolf, Austin Collins, all your favorites, all at the front of the field, just where you expect them to be here in prime time as we wind down another thriller here from Talladega, Alabama.
Yeah,
no one having any...
There's 20 laps to go at this point. Things are going to start heating up in a hurry. That outside lane starting to form up. Austin Collins looks to the middle. Is he going to have position on JP? Looks like he's going to go for it there in the middle. He moves down to the inside of JP. Sits in the middle, going to try to push that 68 up. Meanwhile, the 74 machine falls back a little bit. Matt Sisler with a bit of a push from Matt Burgess. These Matts working well together so far. But now we've got 5 up on the top and 5 on the bottom, as this top 10 is completely under a blanket right now.
Yeah, you can pitch a 10 over these guys and stake them down underneath it. It's so tight in there. And you're right, that 93 machine, the Matt Pack's working really good out there as well. Don't count Matt Sisler out of this thing yet. Great plate racer. I've seen some of his finishes here at Daytona so far this year. He actually won one with a pass in the grass. Don't count him out either. He's great late in these ones. But split the field, 5 up top, 5 at the bottom. At least they were a moment ago. And no one's gaining an inch here as the 68 and the 8 continue to duke it out. I mean, these lanes are now trying to come up and side draft each other, trying to get every last ounce of performance out of their race cars as they're side by side as they go through the tri-oval here at the start finish line one more time.
18 laps to go, and it's a crapshoot up front. Maybe that's the wrong word, but I couldn't tell you which one had it at the line. This time the inside lane seems to be working well through the corners, but the top side seems to get the draft down the back straightaway, and they're able to recover. Now we've got 4 up on the top. Harmon, Collins, Pandolf, and Burgess. Taylor Butcher Benjamin leads right. Burby and the 71 of Jacobs down on the bottom. Then you got Sisler and that 39 Dustin Jones, silver bullet, sitting right behind.
Yeah, pick your poison, place your bets. I mean, it's as good as anyone's out. Anyone has a chance to win this race right now if they're on the lead lap. And the last time I've looked, that would say there's 12 cars right now that are all within fractions of a second of each other that could potentially win this late race on the last lap as we continue to dogfight this one out at almost 200 miles an hour. That is flying in this ARCA car.
It absolutely is. These guys at 196, 197 up front. Thomas Harmon, 197, getting down into turn number 3. These guys are absolutely on fire right now. They are pushing harder than they have all day. And we're going to see some sparks fly potentially here as these guys get ever so close to the back bumper of the car in front of them.
Yeah, I think if the session loaded in the night, you would, I mean, not that it's possible to race Talladega at night, but you would be seeing sparks flying underneath these ARCA cars like fireworks from the speeds they are achieving in this car. I don't think they're supposed to go this fast. I mean, but when you get these skilled drivers working the draft, anything is possible. I know that tachometer has to be well into the red zone as the RPMs has to be over 8,000 RPM to run those types of speeds.
Yeah, and these ARCA cars, they don't have that kind of high RPM that, say, the next-gen cars or even the Xfinity cars do. These guys are maxing out at 7,000, 8,000 RPM. That's when they redline, so definitely tough to get the speed out of these cars. But when these guys sit in line the way that they are, and you see some of that side draft working as Taylor Butcher Benjamin gets sideways, gets back up in front of David Wright without incident, but that gives the outside lane quite a bit of momentum as now Austin Collins tries to come down in front of the 8. Just barely gets that job done. Thomas Harmon leads the race. Austin Collins in second. And Collins was somebody we saw get involved in the crash earlier on. Potential damage to that car. It doesn't seem to be hurting anything right now.
I mean, you want to know just how good these guys are? How do you almost nearly wreck, have an uh-oh moment, and maintain your position on the racetrack? That's just incredible. You don't see that very often in real life, and you hardly ever see that in sim racing, even at the highest levels. Well done. Great job great driving execution out there on the racetrack. Look at Thomas Harmon, James Pandolf. There's the one. The two guys that have won it all, 1-2, nose to tail on the bottom line. James Pandolf, the 12 of Matt Burgess, Austin, and company on the top side of the racetrack. Anyone could potentially win this race. These guys, some of these guys were almost a lap down 30, 35 laps ago, now up here fighting for the lead. I mean, at times it just depends on which line has the momentum that's going to dictate who would be P1 at the start-finish line. But when you're racing this hard, Liam, how do you try to make a move when everyone's making a move around you?
Well, it's super tough in this situation. You've only got 10 up in the lead pack. That outside lane, that middle lane seems to be working well on the straightaways to get a nice run coming up off the corner. But there's not enough cars to really make it comfortably 3 wide. So you're kind of stuck with these 2 lanes here. You can maybe try to shuffle 1 or 2 cars out, but it's going to be really tough to make a 3 wide move at this point. That's going to be a little bit frustrating. Well, you said everybody's making these moves around you, and especially we saw a moment with Taylor Butcher Benjamin getting sideways that allowed the 1 and the 68 to come down in front of him. That's going to be where this race is won and lost. It's going to be more on mistakes like that versus being able to get up top, make it 3 wide, and make big moves. Just with the lack of cars that we have in this lead pack.
I think what you're going to have to do here is you're going to have to break the momentum. You might actually have to back the pack up or that lineup a little bit so you can get the surge and potentially find a gap or a hole to shoot through at the start-finish line. Now, if they were single car formation, run to the bottom, it's a lot easier. Someone just needs to pull out a line and hope that you have a couple guys go with you. But when that hornet's nest is a brewing at 200 miles an hour side by side, and they are swerving and Irving all over, it's any man's race right now. If they stay configured like this at the start-finish line, it's going to take someone to make a big swing, and I think that's just checking the lineup a little bit to build some separation and get that final run and hope there's some daylight at that start-finish line.
We approach 11 laps to go, and we know anything can happen in these races, whether it's these drivers, this car, or this track. Anything can happen. We've seen plenty of, I wouldn't say plenty, but we've seen a couple of incidents and situations we didn't quite think we'd get them. And we've seen plenty of phenomenal saves throughout the course of this race, where we definitely thought we'd be seeing the big one. But right now, we've got 10 of the series best racing for the win right now, and tell you what, it couldn't get any better. We've got 10.5 laps to go in a dogfight with 10 drivers. You could throw a blanket over them all.
And ironically, I almost want to say this is as calm as they've looked out there on the racetrack all night tonight. Yeah, they are grouped up tight, but they're not swerving as much or jostling for position as much as they were throughout the course of tonight. I think they're just trying to size everyone up right now. Maybe if you're a driver, you got some team communications, trying to work with a buddy out there on the track, come up with a game plan here. Because if it stands right now, if they run just how they are, and it's going to be a potential crapshoot is the word you use, roll the gauntlet at the line between the 68 of Thomas Harmon and the 74 of James Pandolf. So someone's going to have to try to pull the rabbit out of the hat. Here you go. Right now, there's a big change there. As the 74 got a run, kind of came down and cut the nose off of Harmon there, and he lifts and lets that 74 machine in. Not a lot of drivers would do that, so big shout out there to Thomas Harmon for cutting him some slack, and he's going to get a run like I was talking about from the one back to the outside of the racetrack. That's what you got to do. You got to create some separation and get that energy as the 12 comes back up and pushes Harmon back to the lead.
We'll see if Harmon gets down. The 12 gets down behind him. Now we've got to change back up front again. JP made himself a phenomenal move to take the race lead. Look at that 42 going up top 3 wide. Brandon Borby in the middle with no help. Here comes the 39 up top to try to help. But these guys just falling further and further back. Here comes JP back up to the top. He's not going to have any help. He's going to get passed by Austin Collins. And Taylor Butcher Benjamin going to try to follow through with this momentum. The outside lane forms up a little bit better. There's 5 cars up there, but there's 2 or 3 cars clear of them up in the front on the inside lane. Now these guys trying to start drafting together again, and we've seen Brandon Borby and JP, James Pandolf, work quite well together throughout the course of this race. Now they're going to have David Wright right behind them to try to make a run up on this top side. We've got 8 laps to go here at Talladega, and you see Borby looking down to the inside. It's got to make that 74 just a touch nervous.
Yeah, I think everyone is holding. This is definitely the point in the race as a race car driver is everyone is holding their breath, sleeping with one eye open, if you will, as these laps feel like an eternity as the intensity in the racing has picked up and has plateaued and is maxed out right now here in Talladega, Alabama. Thomas Harmon, he has won 4 races in a row. Austin Collins last week, the one machine. He dethroned him. He won the races, the first 2 to open up the series. Here you go. You got the 68, the 12, the 1. The guys that you'd expect to be up front. You got James Pandolf. You got Harmon. You got the 42 or the 45 of Brandon Borby, who have been fast at times, all looking for wins. You know they want it. And you know Harmon wants to put another win in that win column. So you have 2 lanes of cars with drivers all fighting for their right to win, and only one's going to prevail. I still think we're not caution. I still think there's a chance of a caution here with this kind of racing going on. But every moment that goes by, the laps tick down as we are now working lap 88.
Yeah, you mentioned cautions here. We've got 7 laps to go, and I tell you what, every driver in this pack right now is thinking, I've got a shot to win this, and the last thing that they want right now is a caution flag. Not only because they don't want to be involved in the crash, but when you get down to this stage in the race, there's 6 laps to go right now, and you start putting in 2.5-minute caution laps. That's really going to get into the psyche of these drivers as you see some side-by-side action there for a second. These guys getting real close with the side draft. That's really going to get into these guys' heads, especially if they get close to a green-white checker here.
Yeah, well said. I could not agree with you more, and I think that's why you're starting to see that side draft and that flaring of the outside and the inside lines, as you will, the flexing of those cars, just trying to squeeze every ounce of momentum out of it. And right now, Harmon and getting the help from the 12 and the 1 just off of his back bumper. They're doing a great job on the bottom side of the racetrack, just keeping nice and tight and grouped together. That's going to help distribute that air force over, or reduce that drag over the course, over those 3 cars, better than the cars that are on the top side just skewed out a little bit more, and that should give the advantage to the bottom, and that's exactly what you're seeing right now is Thomas Harmon out by about a half a car length with a big push from the 12 and the 1 of Austin Collins.
Just as you say that, there's Berry and Pandolf working well together. Pandolf got a little bit sideways, getting down into turn number 3 after the push from the 45. That's going to give the inside lane a little bit more momentum as they get the top 2 cleared. We'll see if that 12 is able to jump up top, make a move. Doesn't seem to have the momentum quite yet, and does not have the space. He thought about it, moved up top just a little bit, but didn't quite have the space to make that move happen. JP back up on the top side with 4 laps to go. There's 4 drivers up on the top, 4 on the bottom, and then you've got the 39 and the 93 just kind of waiting in the wind as that 39, Dustin Jones rather, gets himself a little bit closer. James Jacobs sitting in the 4th car on the inside lane in that Texaco Haviland machine. 4 laps to go. The inside lane is strong, getting down into turn number 3. They're going to get 2 of them clear, see if they can get a 3rd clear with Austin Collins, and we'll see if that 12 jumps up to try to make a move after they get cleared down into the tri-oval.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. If you can clear just enough, if you're able to get 3 cars clear, that's an opportunity from someone from the bottom lane, like the 1 of Collins or the 12 of Burgess, to jump up and take that momentum, get that push from the top side of the racetrack. But that option is gone. As it currently stands right now is James Pandolf. Guess who's back on the outside leading that line? That's right, getting a big push from that 42 machine. You saw a little bit of a wiggle, and I don't care who's pushing. When you're getting pushed like that in this car, it is literally impossible to keep it pencil straight. But that's how you're also seeing these speeds out here on the racetrack, as they are tight 2 by 2 for the top 4.
2 by 2 coming to 2 laps to go. James Pandolf with a big push, and now we see some movement up to the 3rd lane. David Wright with Taylor Butcher Benjamin. The 2 of them alone. Now Matt Sisler's going to jump up top with them, try to help them out. 2 laps to go, and they're 3 wide for the race lead. David Wright, he's got himself a push, and now that middle, that sucker hole, we're seeing that side draft start to work. We'll see how much these guys fall back. The inside lane seems to be where it's at as Thomas Harmon holds on to the race lead, but the outer lanes get that run coming up off the corner. Now the 71 of James Jacobs moves to the middle to try to help these guys out. They're coming to the white flag through turns 3 and 4 right now.
Oh, can you feel the shake and bake right now? Because I sure can, and I feel the burn. It's sizzle time. Look who's coming from the back to the front, working on the top side of the racetrack. That 93 is not out of this yet. Even coming to the white flag, they had to do something to break this pack up, and now you have it. The 3rd lane is finally formed, led by the 42, Taylor the Butcher Benjamin, and Matt Sisler on the very top side of the racetrack. It's literally a 3 by 3 by 3 dogfight for the win. Thomas has it at the moment by fractions of a second. Right now, I believe the lead's going to go to the 74 of Pandolf, because he's getting a huge push right now.
Pandolf gets turned up to the top. 45 gets turned sideways. Thomas Harmon and Matt Burgess are still in it, and it's just those 2. A big crash happens behind these guys. Can Matt Burgess get to the back bumper of Thomas Harmon? Burgess had some damage from getting turned around. He's going to have one last shot at it. He's going to take the toe, but it's not going to be enough. He stays about a car length off. Thomas Harmon gets the job done once again. And I tell you what, we've got a race for 3rd. Dustin Jones, he's in front of the David Wright machine. Jones is going to get 3rd. JP is going to pass David Wright for 4th. And a phenomenal, or a rather chaotic last lap leads to a phenomenal finish. And Thomas Harmon continues the season of dreams with his 5th win of the year.
I mean, that was epic. Someone donkey punched the atomic bomb and took everyone out in that pack of cars. And somehow, the 68 in the 12 scored through the Flash war zone out there on the racetrack. Thomas Harmon, like you said, smooth sailing, all is well in the Harmon camp. The 12, Matt Burgess, thankful to come out of that. Probably, I mean, he come home second. The first, he's getting a podium finish. But how about the 68 machine? Surviving in the back of that race and that pack for most of this race, put himself in position when he needed to, survive that nuclear explosion out there on the white flag lap. He's your leader once again tonight, and still all the races led throughout the course of this one are either Thomas Harmon, who has 5, and 3 to Austin Collins in the 1 machine. Great job getting it done to the 68.
We're going to go ahead and bring that 68 driver up into the booth as we see him burn it down here at Talladega. Thomas, I know we've talked to you quite a bit, but this one definitely did not come easy. Kind of walk us through how your day went, and then after the fact, walk us through that last lap.
Well, at the start of the race, I thought we might have been able to one-stop it after making the remark that there was no way. But then it just happened to never get that extra lap of fuel that I needed. So decided to pit with everybody else. Didn't work out. I came out a little bit behind the lead pack, but we got back. And then from then on, it was game on.
Yeah, you worked that top side pretty well there, but in the end, it kind of came down to you and the 12. When that crash happened behind you, did you think the 12 was going to be able to get up to you, or?
I knew he was damaged, so I didn't know if he would be able to get a run or not. But I assumed that he would, and I was just waiting for it, watching my mirror. But thankfully, it never came because I know he would have went around me in a heartbeat.
Well, I mean, he put down 5 W's this season. I mean, by far the most winningest driver, Austin Collins, the only other winner this season. I believe he's got 3. How does it feel to be going into next week having such a dominant season?
Well, I've got my eye on the big prize, the most wins in the league history, which is held by Wade at 43, I believe it is. So I'm eyeballing that one. I would like to get it, but we'll see.
Well, rock on, Thomas. Before we let you go, who do you want to thank for such a strong performance?
Yeah, shout out to you guys up in the booth. JP for putting on the league. All the drivers that show up each week, and Collins and Matt tonight for working with me a lot to get me up to the front there. I just wasn't getting the pushes from everybody else, but when they got behind me, I've worked with them both for a while, and huge shout out to those two. I would have felt back in the pack a little bit farther if it wasn't for them.
Well, we appreciate you joining us up in the booth here. That was your race winner, 5-time this season. That's Thomas Harmon. So we'll jump and grab Matt Burgess, your second place finisher. Matt, I believe you've got, I believe you're with Matt.
Hey, hi.
Matt Burgess. Matt up in the SRM booth. Matt, what a crazy race for you, right? I mean, you're up there at the front of the field fighting to stay on the lead lap. And one of the only times you probably worked with other cars that were essentially a lap down, this fight for your life. You win that battle. I mean, and you come home second. That race was wild. Walk me through this race from your perspective tonight. How did you get that car back to second?
Oh, I have no clue. Yeah, the pit stop, I hadn't practiced any long run on the tires, and Austin Collins hadn't either. When we came in, I was braking where I had tested, and I mean the tires were like ice. You had to brake a lot earlier, and we both just slid through. And luckily, we didn't hit anything on pit road or anything like that. So then we had our speeding penalty, and yeah, it just worked out where the field came around and there was enough lap down cars where we could push to the front. And then it was unfortunate that Austin had the checkups for the lap car and kind of ruined his day. And I didn't suffer any damage from it. I was just there's no way for me to check up and stay out of him. But I actually didn't think I got my lap back until it told me to pass the pace car, and then I got caught up. And then yeah, then that wreck with Thomas. Yeah, from my perspective, I got in the back of him and it got him squarely, so I had to check up. And I felt the car was in total control the whole time, but then the guys behind couldn't check up in time, and I got taken out. That was like 2.5 minutes of damage, and I got I think all but 20 seconds fixed. No engine damage, but apparently the pit crew did a good job, and I was fine. I was behind when I was behind someone and pushing. That last wreck on the backstretch when I had that clear red at Thomas, it didn't pull up at all, so I couldn't challenge him for the win.
Hey, thanks for that great analysis there. And I agree with you because I thought once, you had that second incident, I thought, that car aerodynamically was pretty much done for. But like you said, Pit Crew did a great job on that race car, and you're able to wheel that thing up to the front. Describe how it was up there in that lead pack. It seemed like it was just, moments from disaster. And I know it's a big product of this race car, the way that it drafts. But describe what that intense racing was like up there in the draft, near the front, near the end.
Generally, I don't drive these cars, so I'm usually in like say that sometimes the trucks, mainly the next gen, and you can really bump someone in those and just hammer home through the corners if you want to. These, as soon as you touch them, you can see the rear start picking up, so you have to be really careful where you hit them and how hard you hit them. So it just adds to the stress level when you're trying to push someone. You have to make sure you just don't hit them too hard, which I think that's what's happened to JP. He got hit a little too hard and it lifted his rear wheels, and then they just get real squirrely. And if you don't get out the guy quick enough, then they're going to turn. These cars, yeah, definitely. I mean, they feel slow, but when you're in a pack like that and you're racing, nose to tail, and people are struggling, a little bit with lines and stuff. I think it's more nerve-wracking than the next gens. The next gens you're looking for, you're bumping the person in front of you, or maybe looking for that run to pass someone. But these, man, you have to be so careful touching someone. It just makes it so stressful to push.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. And just like you said, when you get pushed just a little too much, when that happens and you don't back off, it was like a nuclear bomb went off just off back of the leaders, and you're able to get through with the 68, and you come home and get yourself a second position podium spot here tonight. As he said at the top of the interview, he doesn't know how he did it. We're still trying to figure out how he did it, but he did it. He comes home in second place tonight. Matt, who helps you get it done on that 12 machine before we cut you loose?
Yeah, thanks to Austin Collins. I was in his chat. I race with a few of the drivers in here. They were in some other ones. So give a shout out to those guys, even though I wasn't in the same chat with them. I'm sure they were having a blast up there too. And then congrats to Thomas for winning. I've raced with him a lot. I've pushed him to a lot of wins. So I'll just have to chalk this up as another one. I end up pushing him to another win.
Hey, even in Talladega Nights, he eventually got his. So remember that.
Yeah.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate you. Go enjoy it with your team.
All right. Thank you.
All right, that was Matt Burgess, and now we're going to bring in our third place finisher, Dustin Jones. Tell you what, Dustin, you in that 39 Coors Light Silver Bullet machine, you definitely had yourself an up and down day. Kind of walk us through that last lap crash and what it took to get you up into the third position.
No, I was just trying to ride. I didn't lose the front pack. It kind of worked out all right. Let a lap early just by, cautions, or just by the pit cycle there. I was just trying to, I had the best seat for all that, really. I was just picking lanes and just trying to stay up with the pack and trying to avoid some of the ones that I didn't want to be behind, and, just kind of had to sort through it at the end there.
Yeah, what was it like for you racing through this pack? It seemed super intense, but obviously only a couple of cautions here. It seemed relatively clean.
Yeah, I was with my teammate there, David and Taylor. We lost Taylor halfway through the race. audio issues. I don't know what happened there, but David, we were just trying to wait, make sure it was time to go, and then they made that third line, and I couldn't get there with them. I was kind of stuck on the bottom, and just tried to, once I saw Harmon and Collins got linked up, I kind of thought we were all in trouble because they could pretty well control it on the bottom. I was just kind of riding along at that point. I felt like.
Well, riding along seemed to be a pretty good strategy for you as you come away with the podium position. Is there anybody you want to thank for such a strong performance here at Talladega?
I don't think, DRL, James Panoff. I mean, I've kind of gotten away from the league a little bit. Unfortunately, I've been running a little more dirt stuff lately, just because, no particular reason. So I had to pop in here, and you guys were broadcasting. I think my mom actually, I sent her the link and she watched. So hi, mom, if you're still watching. And just everybody for doing it, and everybody showed up and raced. It was a good, clean race actually. For Talladega, it was actually a lot of fun.
Awesome stuff. We appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast, and we'll let you go back and celebrate with your team.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a good night.
You as well.
He couldn't have said it better himself. I mean, even for Talladega, these guys continue to produce great racing with minimal cautions. And when the cautions did strike, they were nuclear out there on the racetrack. But once again, I mean, what an exhilarating race. There was not one drop of calmness throughout the course of this one, as we had lead change battles from the drop of the green flag, and Thomas Harmon survives, and he's alive coming home P1, Matt Burgess in second, and Dustin Jones rounding out your top three here tonight.
Yeah,
Liam, what'd you think of that one? That was wild.
Yeah, it was definitely a wild one. You only saw 2 cautions here at Talladega, and huge crash to end the race, and Thomas Harmon taking home his 5th win of the season. He mentioned he's out for it. He wants to take that #1 winner's slot for the 10 years of Dynasty Racing League. But Thomas Harmon, he's got his eyes on that prize. But as you mentioned, the podium finishers, we'll go ahead and go through the rest of them. James Pandolf finishes 4th. Then we've got David Wright, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, Matt Sisler, Austin Collins, Brandon Borby, and Sam Niederhelm rounding out your top 10. Jacob Gladulich, James Jacobs, Larry McKenzie Jr., James Goodman, Andrew McKenzie, and Justin Sorrell actually did not take the start, so McKenzie's going to round out your field. That's going to about do it for us here at Sim Racing Media. We appreciate everybody tuning in live here for the Dynasty Racing League Pro Series. We've had ourselves an absolute blast calling 250 incredible miles at Talladega Superspeedway, and we hope you guys had a blast joining us as well. For Matt Metler, I'm Liam Ervig. This has been Sim Racing Media. We'll catch you guys next time.